Welcome to the Magic on the Inside podcast by the Sisters Enchanted, where we chat magic, hot topics, personal development, and good old-fashioned life. Brew up something delicious and sit with us for a spell. Welcome to this episode of the Magic on the Inside podcast. I'm Sara, founder of the Sisters Enchanted, and this is a super short episode for you today. And we are talking about astrology and tarot. So we often get questions about those two tools and how they work together. Now, there are tons of astrological associations embedded in the tarot, which would take me way longer than a short podcast episode to talk about. So what we're going to talk about today is a fun technique to use the two tools together, even if you don't know astrology, because astrology does have a bigger learning curve than tarot. So listen in, get your tips, and let's dive right into it. So if you are going to use this activity or do this activity, you're going to need two things: a tarot deck. You could also use an oracle card deck if you wanted to. And then I would also suggest getting your birth chart. Now, if you don't have a birth chart, you can just look online for a free birth chart generator. There's tons of websites, and you can pull one super easy. You do need your place of birth, your time of birth, and your date of birth. Now, if you don't know your time of birth, you can set it to noon for the day you were born. That said, there are a few fast moving elements within a birth chart that can change within a few minutes. So if you know at least like a generalization, morning or night, that can be helpful. And if you can request your long form birth certificate from wherever it was that you were born, that can also be helpful. Or the sometimes like the town hall or the government building where you were born will have that long form birth certificate, which will have that information on it. All right. Now, you're going to pull your birth chart, and you can pull your birth chart. You could also look up online, which is like a whole other level thing. I probably shouldn't even mention it, but you could look up one that has the current transits, so where the planets are currently, as together with where they were when you were born. That's always interesting to look at. But either way, pull a birth chart. And on your birth chart, there are 12 houses. Now, each of these houses means something. They each have a meaning. We do have some resources and a free video over on our blog that we can get to you if you want some help figuring out what those mean. But for now, we just want to look at the 12 houses. And what you can do is you can actually pull, this is where the activity comes in, you can pull a card for each of the 12 houses and ask a question around that. If for now example, as of the recording of this video, we have about a week left in Aries season before we move into Taurus season. And maybe you want to ask what do I need to work with? What do I need to know about my planets, my energies, my birth chart, my own solar system, like how that's working for me up in the sky? What do I need to know about that as I transition from the fiery, passionate, creative energy of Aries into the beautiful, cozy energy of Taurus? What do I need to know about that transition? And pull a card for each of the houses and look for a message in the house as related to your planets and what's going on there. Now, obviously, you do need to know a little bit about astrology for that to really make sense. We do have resources on our YouTube page. There are some podcast episodes over on our blog. So be sure to check all of that out to get some helpful hints and tips about what all of this means. But looking at those 12 houses, and you can just look online even for what the houses all mean. But seeing what do you need in the sixth house, for example, that's your house of health and service to others. So what do you need to know right now about your health, your wellness, and your service to others? Your 10th house, that's your career house. What do you need to know about what's going on there? And pull cards for the 12 different houses. What's interesting about this too is that you can look at the opposing cards. You can look at, for example, house one and house 7. So what do you have happening in house 1? What card did you pull? and what card did you pull for house 7, and look for what's going on in those opposite houses there and see if you can find any nuances. And that also incorporates some of that tarot and storytelling work that we love to talk about here at the Sisters Enchanted. So the first step would be to print out your birth chart or look it up online. The next step would be to pull a card for each house. The third step would be to look and see what's happening in that circle. So your circle starts at house 1, it ends in house 12. Is there anything happening of note with your cards in opposite houses? Or maybe, for example, like maybe in your first house, your 7th house, those are opposites. Maybe you have a card in each position that shows like balance. Maybe you get Temperance in one and 2 of Pentacles in the other. And it's like looking at balancing these opposite energies and bringing them back together again. Maybe along the circle, you find that in house 1 and house 12, maybe you get the Emperor in one and the Empress in one. And that's like what's going on with your full circle story there. Where do you need to be nurturing, like starting with the nurturer and ending with being more assertive or something like that, right? So looking at the relationship between the cards too in that circle, that pie chart that is your birth chart. So that is your fun activity, your technique. If you're interested in tarot, you're interested in astrology, you can work at them together in that way and just see what comes up for you. And yeah, enjoy. This is a great learning practice too. If you know nothing about astrology and even if you don't know your tarot cards, this is just another fun way to practice. So don't worry about getting it right. Just practice, learn, observe, see some things, see how it feels to you, and get to know yourself and your cards and your birth chart a little bit better. All right, if you want to know more about any of this, about learning astrology, we do have a free class coming up on April 18th at I believe 1 p.m. Eastern time. We'll put the link to register down below wherever you're listening or watching this. And if you want to learn some more about tarot, you can check out our class at tarotthrowdown.com. We'd love to have you. All right. Thank you so much for checking this out. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That helps us out so much and tells the powers that be on the internet that people find this useful, and it helps us get the word out about the Sisters Enchanted and all that we've got going on over here for you. So subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Until next time, I hope that you have an enchanted rest of your day ahead.